Hi, this is Alice Bailey, and I'm here to speak about my process from consciousness to awareness. I'm currently in process of writing a book through this interdimensional portal on my process, and what I find quite intriguing and fascinating is that while I'm writing, I'm also experiencing my process at the same time from consciousness to awareness. So I'm literally, as I'm writing, walking the process with those who will be reading the words of the book I'm writing called From Consciousness to Awareness. Well, let me start at where I was introduced to Anu the first time before my life as Alice Bailey. Well, I was escorted to Anu by a dimensional being. And Anu's, how am I able to call it? Anu resided within the dimensions. He had his own dimensional dome. Within the dimensions there was a great white wall that stretched, it seemed, into infinity, both horizontally and vertically. And this wall was called the Great White Light. And it was when we walked through this wall that we were able to see Anu's self-created existence within the dimensions. But of course I did not know that yet. I was following this gentleman who was a dimensional being. This was my experience within the dimensional existence before I entered and incarnated as Alice Bailey on Earth. I walked with this dimensional being through the Great White Light Wall, and within, as we passed through, there were these cobblestone pathways. Only one. There were grass everywhere. I remember thinking that this grass's expression is so perfect, it seems so fragile, that I was almost too afraid to step on it. And so I made sure I walked and remained on this cobblestone path. During my time in this dimensional existence, with this dimensional being, as I entered through the Great White Light Wall, I was the expression of a little girl. I'd say about 11 to 14 years old. And we were walking, and I could see the most magnificent trees. It was the most perfect expression of nature, the magnificence of nature before me in its most purest expression. And we were walking, and I could just see the stretch of this beautiful and magnificent expression of grass. And far and beyond, I could see a river flowing. There were women, beautiful women. They were so beautiful. I was taken aback. I actually gasped for a moment, because they just radiated beauty, magnificence, presence, as though they were birthed from the nature that surrounded me itself. As I got closer, their skin was so soft, as though they were a vision, as though I would actually harm them if I touched them, as if I would influence their radiance of just light. Everything was the manifestation of perfection in expression. And everything, although it was a separate expression, seemed one. And these women moved with such grace and such beauty that I just stared. And then I kind of caught myself, because I said, I better not observe so intently, because they might take it personally or might judge me being so consumed and mesmerized by their mere presence. So I'd walk with my head down, and I'd occasionally look to my left just to observe them. Some of them were dressed in these purple plum robes, attached with gold bracelets. Their hair were long and black. Some of their eyes were brown and blue. Their skin had a fair complexion, beautiful. And so, as I said, their movement was the movement with the river that had flowed right next to them. Some were sitting, some were laughing, some were communicating. Some were swimming in the river naked. And I couldn't help but giggle for a moment, because during that time I was referred to as Gracias, and I wore this white dress, and I was barefoot. I was in a human form expression, but they were just, everything stopped within me as I observed them, especially the ones expressing themselves in the river. As the water splashed, as they splashed the water amongst each other or at each other, and the laughing, that sound was so pure. As though you didn't want to hinder their expression, because if you did, you would be scared to actually harm even the most purest expression of sound coming from within them. And the water, I could observe even as though the water itself enjoyed their expression within the water as one. The water becoming glistening drops on their bodies. As the sun, and there was the sun, it was as though a dream, but the most magnificent dream. And so we continued to walk on the cobblestone road, pathway, over a bridge, crossing the river in which the most beautiful, magnificent women experienced themselves within, some sitting on the grass, no one even looking up to notice us walking there. Obviously, I presumed that they had many visitors. Still, I was not sure of where exactly I was going. And then all of a sudden there was a building, an interesting geometrical structured building in the form of a triangle with 3 points connected. And within the center was a big, big throne. And there were guards at each of the 3 pillars. Okay, this is Alice Bailey. Almost wanted to say Gracias. And I'll continue in my next interview. Thank you.